He made us laugh until we cried. His face is a million masks, his body an instrument of incredible comedy. But what if I tell you that the most famous clown on the planet, at some point, a tub, just got tired of laughing? He started talking about emptiness, the illusory nature of ourself, the meaning of life in a way no one expected. What happened to Jim Carrey? Get ready, because his journey to self-discovery, Al-Qasim, might not just surprise you, it might shock you. Have you ever wondered what lies behind the smile of a person who seems to be an eternal source of joy? Today we are not just going to talk about Jim Carrey, the actor. We will delve into the amazing, sometimes frightening, but incredibly liberating transformation of a man who risked everything to find himself. We will analyze his most candid interviews, or his unexpected philosophical statements, and try to understand, is it a brilliant PR move, a creative crisis, or a genuine awakening? And most importantly, what lesson can each of you take from his story? I promise by the end of this video you will have a new perspective not only on Jim Carrey, but possibly on your own life as well. Don't switch off, because what we've uncovered will truly make you think. Let's go back to the beginning. The 90s. The world is gripped by Carrey mania. This guy from Canada with a rubber face and boundless energy burst onto the screens and revolutionized the concept of comedy. Do you remember that feeling when you first saw him on screen? That very laughter that was impossible to hold back. He wasn't just funny, he was a phenomenon. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, with his crazy hairstyles and even crazier antics, literally blew up the cinemas. It was something fresh, something unseen before, a breath of rebellious air in the sometimes too predictable world of Hollywood. His physical comedy, knowing no bounds, his ability to transform his face and body into something completely unimaginable. It was pure, unrestrained genius that broke the mold. He wasn't afraid to be absurd. He wasn't afraid to be silly. And that's exactly why millions loved him. Then came The Mask, the film that made him a global superstar. Stanley Ipkiss, a modest bank clerk who finds an ancient mask of Loki and transforms into an unstoppable, green-headed trickster. It was a role seemingly made specifically for Carrey. He was able to go all out, using the full arsenal of his comedic talents. Every grimace every movement was honed to perfection. And again, a resounding success with Dumb and Dumber. Lloyd Christmas, one of the most unforgettable idiots in cinema history. This film became an anthem of absurdity, and Carrey shone in it, creating a character that simultaneously evoked laughter and a strange sympathy, almost pity for his naivety. These characters became iconic. They were eccentric, they were on the edge, but each of them had an almost childlike spontaneity, which is why we loved him. He was the king of comedy, a man who seemed capable of making even a stone laugh. Millions of dollars, magazine covers, crowds of fans, adoration from critics and audiences. It seemed like the American dream in the flesh. A dream that many strive for, but only a few achieve. He was on top of the world. But consider this, all these roles are masks, bright, memorable, brilliantly performed, but still masks. And he wore them masterfully. Write in the comments which is your favorite Jim Carrey comedy character and why. I'm very interested to know your opinion. But what happens when the mask becomes so attached to your face that it becomes your second skin? What if, behind the deafening laughter of the audience, you stop hearing your own voice? What if the applause drowns out the quiet whisper of your soul, trying to say something important, something intimate? Even then, at the peak of his comedic fame, at the zenith of his success, the first cracks began to appear. Small, barely noticeable hints that behind this fireworks display of unrestrained fun, there was something much more complex, much deeper, and possibly even painful, something that didn't fit the image of the eternal jester who never gets discouraged. The Truman Show. Who among you has watched this movie? It's not just a film, it's almost a prophecy about his own life, don't you think? Truman Burbank is a man whose entire life, from birth, is a reality show broadcast to the whole world. He lives in an artificially created town, surrounded by actors, unaware that every step he takes, every word he says, is part of a script. Jim Carrey was incredible in this role. He showcased not only his dramatic talent, but also a deep, almost tragic vulnerability. It was the first serious wake-up call for those who saw him only as a comedian. The film made you think about the nature of reality, freedom of choice, and manipulation. And watching Carrey, who so convincingly played this existential trap, it was impossible not to draw parallels with his own life under the constant scrutiny of cameras, where every gesture, every word was analyzed, and personal space became a luxury practically unattainable. Then there was Man on the Moon, where he played the eccentric comedian Andy Kaufman. Carrey got so into the role that, according to rumors, he didn't break character even who were off the set, literally driving his colleagues. And the crew crazy. He became Andy Kaufman. It was both frightening and mesmerizing at the same time. He was no longer just an actor, he was a performer, exploring the boundaries of his own identity. He received a Golden Globe for this role, but many noted at the time that it was something more than just acting. It was almost an obsession, an immersion into another personality to the point of complete dissolution, which sparked intense discussions about the boundaries of acting and the price one pays for such total transformation, for erasing the lines between oneself and the character. And then Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, a melancholic, piercing, incredibly beautiful and sad story about love, memory, and loss. Where was that restless comedian with the rubber face? Before us was an actor of incredible dramatic depth, capable of conveying the subtlest nuances of human emotions. Joel Barish, as portrayed by him, is a man crushed by the pain of separation, trying to erase the memories of his beloved. This role definitively proved that Jim Carrey is not just a comedian, he is a great serious artist capable of deep psychological roles. And it was here that many began to wonder, who is Jim Carrey really? He himself began to give interviews more frequently, which, to put it mildly, deviated from his usual image. He spoke about the depression he had battled for many years, about the search for meaning, about how fame and money are not the answer, and that they do not bring true happiness. He talked about feeling empty, even when he had everything one could dream of. This contradicted the glossy image of Hollywood, the image of a successful and always positive person. And it was frightening to those who were used to seeing him only as a source of carefree laughter. Don't you think that society is often not ready to accept the multifaceted nature of a public figure? That we ourselves pigeonhole stars, and not just stars, but each other, into the confines of a single role, a single image? Share your thoughts below. We want to see heroes as simple, understandable, predictable, and when they step outside these boundaries, when they show their complexity, their vulnerability, it causes discomfort because it shatters our convenient stereotypes. And then began what many called strange behavior, a midlife crisis, or even a loss of sanity. Remember his famous appearance at New York Fashion Week, when he approached journalist Kat Sadler from E! News on the red carpet, and in response to her question about why he was there, he said something like, "None of this is real. It doesn't matter at all." He walked around her, talking about the meaninglessness of everything happening, about how he was looking for the most meaningless event to join, and here he was. And then he stated that Jim Carrey doesn't exist, that he himself doesn't exist, and that there are only the effects we have on each other. The journalist was completely bewildered, and this video instantly went viral. The internet exploded. Carrey has gone crazy. What's happening to him? Drugs? An existential crisis, live on air. People were in shock, in confusion. Many felt almost deceived. How could our Jim, our fun-loving guy, a source of positivity, suddenly be contemplating such complex, sometimes dark matters? The man who brought them so much laughter suddenly started speaking the language of Eastern philosophers, mystics, people who have undergone profound spiritual experiences, or as some believed, simply lost their minds. He began to speak more frequently about how the self is an illusion, that the ego is a construct that prevents us from seeing reality as it truly is. He began painting, and his artworks were far from carefree comedy. They were full of symbolism, often dark, disturbing, and followed themes of loneliness, suffering, and the search for light in the darkness. His art became another way to express what was boiling inside him. Here are just a few of his quotes that made the world shudder and reflect. I asked myself, who am I without all of this? Who am I without my fame, without my roles, without money? And the answer was both frightening and liberating. I am nothing, or I am everything. This paradoxical statement points to transcending the limited ego towards a sense of unity with all that exists. The ego is just an illusion. It's a set of stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. And when you understand this, you can let go of these stories, stop clinging to them so desperately. It talks about how we identify with thoughts and memories, creating a false self. Depression is when your body tells you, I no longer want to be this character. I don't want to play this role that you've imposed on me and that I've imposed on myself. It's a deep feeling of exhaustion from inauthenticity. Here he views depression not as an illness, but as a signal from the soul, indicating the need for change. I believe that suffering leads to salvation. In fact, it's the only way. We must somehow accept, rather than avoid suffering, to go through it and emerge on the other side. This idea, what resonates now with many spiritual traditions, where embracing pain becomes the key to transformation. Just listen to these words. This is not just shock for the sake of shock. It's a cry from the soul of a person who seems to have gone through something incredibly profound, through some kind of inner catharsis. He talks about how all our usual reality, our self, our achievements, our beliefs, are largely constructs, mental models that we take for unshakable truth. Illusions that we cling to so desperately because they give us a sense of stability and predictability, albeit imaginary, protecting us from the frightening unknown of existence. Many turned away from him. He betrayed his fans. Bring back the old Jim. He just got conceited and is talking nonsense. But what if this is the real Jim Carrey? Or at least the part of him that he has hidden for so long, even from himself? What if the comedian's mask was just a defense, a way to cope with inner pain, childhood traumas, and the insecurity he lived with despite all his outward bravado? What if his so-called eccentricities are not madness, but rather a desperate, incredibly courageous attempt to find authenticity, or to cast off the shackles of others and his own expectations? Let's try to understand what really happened. From a psychological perspective, what Carrey talks about resonates strongly with the concepts of ego dissolution found in many spiritual teachings. From Buddhism to Advaita Vedanta, and in some branches of depth psychotherapy, such as Jungian analysis or transpersonal psychology, our ego is that very mask, the one we talked about. It is our self-identification built on roles: actor, father, husband, good guy, rebel, intellectual, victim. The list is endless. On achievements, on possessions, on the opinions of others. The ego is the story we tell ourselves about who we are, based on past experiences, social expectations, and adopted roles. And this story is often very limited. It locks us into a narrow framework of self-perception, preventing us from seeing our true potential and multifaceted nature. Imagine that your ego is a costume. You wear it every day. At first, it may be comfortable. It helps you function in society. And now imagine that this costume has become incredibly famous. Everyone loves it, everyone admires it, but it pinches you. It makes it hard for you to breathe. It is made of material that no longer aligns with your inner essence. Jim Carrey essentially talks about deciding to take off this too tight, albeit very expensive, fame costume embroidered with gold and diamonds. And this decision requires immense courage, because when you take off the familiar costume, you are left naked, vulnerable, and not everyone is ready to see that, and not everyone is ready to accept it. Fame is a magnifying glass. It amplifies everything, both the good and the bad. For a person inclined towards reflection, self-analysis, and the search for deeper meaning, fame can become a real golden cage, because it constantly demands you to be that Jim Carrey everyone knows and loves. That same guy with the rubber face and an inexhaustible supply of jokes. But what if you're no longer him? What if something else is growing inside you, something quieter, deeper, more genuine, that demands to be expressed, to be seen and heard? His statements about the nature of the ego, about Jim Carrey being just an idea, a character he played, might seem radical, even shocking to the average mind. But if you think about it, isn't it like that for each of us to some extent? Aren't we more than just our job, our position, our social status, the number of followers on social media, the brand of our car, or the size of our house? Or is there something more, something beyond these external attributes and social roles? Is there a deeper essence that remains, even if all of this is taken away? Write down what you think about this. This is a very important question that I am sure concerns many of you, especially in our time when so much attention is given to outward appearance, success, and recognition. His art, his paintings, are also part of this transformation process. It's a way to express what is difficult, and sometimes even impossible, to put into words. It's his dialogue with himself and the world, but in a different language, called the language of images, symbols, and emotions. Many of his works are imbued with the search for light, the struggle with darkness, or reflections on the nature of reality. It's not just a hobby, it's therapy, a way of self-discovery, a cry of the soul seeking response and understanding. He said that painting helped him heal a broken heart and find a way out of depression. It became a space of freedom for him, where he could be completely honest, without any masks, exploring in his works themes of spirituality, political commentary, personal experiences, and the eternal search for light in the surrounding world. So, is Jim Carrey a mad genius, an enlightened sage, a lost soul, or just a person tired of everything? Perhaps a little bit of everything. Perhaps he, like many of us, is simply searching for his path in this complex and tangled world. But the main lesson that I believe we can learn from his incredible transformation, his public unveiling, is the lesson of the courage to be oneself. The courage to remove the masks, even if those masks have brought you worldwide fame, recognition, and wealth. Even if those masks are so comfortable and so familiar. Look, his journey is not a call for all of us to immediately quit our jobs, abandon our social roles, and become hermits meditating on a mountaintop. Not at all. It is more of an invitation to look within yourself, to ask yourself the very question highlighted in the preview of our video. Who are you without the mask? Who are you? Really, when no one is watching, when you don't have to meet anyone's expectations, when you don't have to play any role? What do you truly want? What does your heart dream of? What makes your soul sing? And what are you most afraid of? What parts of yourself do you hide from the world, and perhaps from yourself? Authenticity is not always easy and pleasant. It is a path that requires constant inner work and honesty with oneself. Sometimes it means going against the current, disappointing the expectations of others, even those closest to you, because their perceptions of you may differ from who you are becoming. Sometimes it means facing misunderstanding, judgment, and ridicule. Jim Carrey paid his own price for his candor and transformation. He lost part of his former audience who only wanted to see him as a funny man. He was invited less often to big budget comedies because he became too complex, too unpredictable. But judging by his later interviews, by his eyes, by the calmness he sometimes radiates, he has gained something much more valuable, inner peace, a sense of wholeness and the freedom to be who he is, without embellishments and without the need to constantly entertain or please anyone. He showed us that beyond the roles we play in the theater of life, there is something more. There is our true self, our genuine essence, waiting to be discovered, to be given a voice. And this journey to oneself is perhaps the most important, though the most exciting, and yes, the most shocking adventure in every person's life. Because on this path, we have to confront our biggest fears and our shadows and those parts of our personality that we don't want to acknowledge, and our deeply rooted illusions about ourselves and the world. But it is precisely by going through this that we can attain true freedom and genuine happiness, which do not depend on external circumstances. The story of Jim Carrey is not just the biography of a Hollywood star. It is a mirror in which many of us can see the reflection of our own fears, doubts, and longing for something real, something greater than just the daily routine and social games. His journey from a globally beloved clown, the king of eccentric comedy, to a person deeply immersed in philosophical quests for truth. It is a powerful reminder that change is possible at any age and under any circumstances. It is a reminder that the search for oneself is not a whim, but a vital need of the human soul. And this process is worth all the effort, all the difficulties, and all the pain that may accompany it. What do you think about all this? Has your attitude towards Jim Carrey changed after learning more about his inner journey? What thoughts and feelings did his story, his candid statements, his courage to be different evoke in you? Be sure to write about it in the comments below. Your opinion is incredibly valuable. I truly read all your responses, and it is very important for me to know your thoughts, as this dialogue enriches all of us. Perhaps you have your own experience of removing masks or finding yourself. Share it if you feel the need. If this video it made you think, if it was useful or interesting to you, if it touched some chords of your soul, please give it a like. This will greatly help in promoting the video, and more people will be able to see this story and perhaps find something important in it for themselves. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new, in-depth analyses and unexpected stories about people who are changing our world and our perception of it. And, of course, share this video with friends, with those who you think are also searching, who ask themselves uncomfortable questions, who strive for greater authenticity in their lives. Perhaps for some of them, Jim Carrey's story will be as much of a revelation, as much of a catalyst for reflection, as I hope it has been for you. Thank you for watching until the end. Remember, the most important mask is often the one you are most afraid to take off. But it is precisely behind this mask of fear and habit that your true, radiant face, your real strength, your unique truth may be hidden. See you next time.